welcome to a special edition of the Guile treatment. We've had some fairly big news drop this week, although I guess not publicly yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be on the Jawfist. Hopefully it will, because it's pretty big news.
Kind of needs to get out there.
So. Yeah, it sort of seems like stuff that shouldn't be limited to the Scout page. Correct. Or knowing someone who has access to the Scout page.
I think their thoughts are that the Scouts will disseminate the information amongst their play groups, but there are people who aren't on Facebook or have a Scout like you guys, or some people don't have a Scout. So how are they supposed to know all this information?
Well, so I guess that's my thing is, so the Scouts will, disseminate the information. To me, that just says we're putting, a buffer so that we don't have to deal with, the brunt of negative feedback.
So, what the message basically said in a nutshell is that they have a set ready to go. But they had Soul Calibur. They decided to bank on Soul Calibur being delayed slightly.
This was all in the news post.
Yeah, but this is also in the Scout page where they actually said that. I sent it to you. I'm a bad. I'm trying to find it on the Scout page real quick. Keep talking.
I don't even know what a Scout page is, and I'm so lost.
So Scouts, it was basically that was the thing back during, I think even
Fantasy Flight and Sabretooth, yeah.
Effectively, it was sort of like a tournament organizer, local hype man. I feel like it was kind of like what Pokemon has, where your store will have a Professor Oak.
Yeah.
It was sort of like the it was sort of the person at a store that would kind of organize events, get prize support, kind of get news from the company.
Basically a tournament organizer with ties to the company in a way. But we're not officially working for the company. We are the next step from store in between. If any information or stuff comes through, we tell the store, hey, this is coming out, look for this, stuff like that. So we're just like Rob said, a glorified hype man in a way. Not a Thomas Gordon, a real hype man. So basically I'll read the post verbatim. Here we go. This is from Sean Kennedy. Hello, here's the update that was coming on Friday but had to get postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. The beginning of the year has already been interesting in good ways and bad. I'm going to jump ahead. We've got many projects ahead of schedule. Bad side is that we can't talk about them, or there's a bottleneck holding it back that's beyond our control. Their shipment for the price support for the second half of the month is coming out, which means the first few Premier stores won't have promos, so they're going to have the foil characters. But here comes the Soul Calibur 6 stuff. We are still waiting on Bandai Namco for Soul Calibur 6, and believe me, we want the set out as much as you do. We honestly did not expect this to take so long, as up until final approvals, everything went fairly smoothly. I've been pushing to at least show off some art, as I think this might be the best looking set of UFS we've ever done. We were waiting until the last possible moment to try to get the DLC packs to you this month, but with Bandai Namco approvals taking so long, it has now affected the production of the DLC packs, which is, I guess, a minor spoiler. Yes, there is Soul Calibur 6 in DLC packs. This has also thrown off our plans for local prize support, as we have planned to have the DLC stores this month to you as prizes for your local tournaments. We will have Street Fighter vs. Darkstalker characters coming in the shipment at the end of the month, so we'll have those instead of the DLC packs. So basically, everything's pushed back, because that means they were going to do quarterly promos this year too, and those also included Soul Calibur 6 cards. So everything is in a bottleneck because Soul Calibur 6. In the news post, previous, I believe it was in the middle of January, they said they had a set ready to go. Why, in my opinion, I would have just been well, Bandai Namco is not talking to us or working with us real easy. It just put the set out because we need to get. Not that we needed to get something out because we just had a set drop in November, but at least plan for late February. Have a set ready to go. If Soul Calibur wasn't ready to go.
I mean, let's take a step back actually, because I know Tim was talking about this in the Discord at one point, and I was sort of reminded of it. If you recall last year, it was only mentioned like once or twice. But
yep.
the release plan was Bebop, Mortal Kombat, Mystery Set, Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers.
True.
Correct.
It's very likely that the Mystery Set was supposed to be Soul Calibur
6.
because the video game came out in October?
Sure.
And so the whole point was like, oh, this will come out like right before Nats or right after Nats or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like right in that, August to October area. And, we'll really like, meet the release date. It'll be great. And, that fourth set kind of just vanished. It was always like, oh, well, we can't talk about what it is, like blah, 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 whatever. So effectively this set has actually kind of been delayed for what? Like, let's say
months,
it was, late September, early October.
Yeah.
So it's what? October, November. So it's basically now 5 months.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was the thing that struck me too from that news post was that they said, we have a set that we could have gotten out to meet the February 1st deadline, but instead we've made, I think they said the executive decision that the delay for Soul Calibur isn't going to be that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to wait for that instead. And they also, I know, in sort of follow-up stuff said, like, this isn't going to impact the release schedule for the rest of the year. Everything else is still as scheduled, which I think with every week that goes by is less and less likely.
Yeah, because I think
people have already lost faith in that. I think people have already kind of, like, this already was a showing of old Jasco, I guess, trends that people have like, oh, we're only going to get 2 sets a year. And then this past year, people were all like, oh, well, they're not going to be able to hold this up. And then they released that video with the German names and all these release dates. And they're like, man, that's really ambitious. And then immediately, right afterwards, they dropped this ball. And it's people are already going to be so quick to revert back to their old mentality of like, oh, I mean, this is typical Jasco. This is going to be something. And I've only been playing this game for over a year. And so, to me, like, I'm still indifferent about it, but I understand how immediately I know I'm going to hear it from all the veterans or all the people that have said this in the past of like, oh, well, what did we expect? And like, there's no way they're going to hold up to the rest of it for the rest of the year kind of thing.
Well, the way it looks now is, there's still, like we were talking pre-show, like a 6 to 8 week gap. Even if they get the set in house, they're going to have to get stuff out to wholesalers, distributors, and then that takes a couple weeks to get to stores. So if hypothetically speaking, we get Soul Calibur, I think the earliest we can get it to make it legal for Worlds is what? The first weekend last weekend in March?
What's Worlds? April?
Early April 20,
right?
the week of April.
No, it's the last weekend of April. It's like the week. It's like April 26th, 27th.
So
really, you probably want the set to be out like
mid-March?
By like the first weekend of April.
Yeah.
Realistically, you really don't want to be second, third, like you're pushing it.
So you're looking at maybe the end of the month.
You basically need, honestly, in that case, if it takes 6 weeks, we would need to see something by probably next weekend, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Or mid-March.
The other thing is that if they're going to hold to this release schedule, they got another one planned in May.
Yeah. So, which I'm gonna go out and say I don't think we're gonna get a set before Worlds. We may get some DLC, but even then we may not even get DLC because it's tied into Soul Calibur now.
I mean, so the issue with that, like you said, like before Worlds, the thing is like, let's assume that other set is actually completely ready to go, and not just it could have been ready to go if we didn't put all our eggs in Soul Calibur's basket. I mean, they need to change gears today.
Yeah, I would.
They need to send that stuff out now. They need to get it to the printer. They need to get the proofs done. They need to get the ads, the promotional stuff done. And I don't see that happening.
No.
I don't think that they're ready to completely change gears in that way.
Yeah.
And to me, it sort of goes back. I know, like, I felt like I was a little bit in the minority when they dropped that, where I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm glad they said something, but I really would have preferred that they just put out any set and met the date.
Sure.
And, and like the thing is again, because they just used like the German names, like, everyone sort of like, they felt like the first set might be Soul Calibur, but if it wasn't, like, there wasn't any proof that was supposed to be the first set.
They could have just said, it's like Red Horizon Set 4 or whatever. And, something like that.
And I mean, I've definitely seen other people who say that. And I mean, obviously, hindsight being what it is, like, the longer we go, the worse, like, of a choice it looks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have this mixed opinion as well, because, like, it's like, I know they're waiting on Capcom and Bandai Namco or whatever and all these other things, but, like, they just gave us an announcement a few weeks ago or last month about these new promos that are gonna basically re-add Hyperbomb back into rotation, and they obviously had to get approval for that artwork for the new Hyperbomb. And so I guess I just don't understand if it's like, are they talking with multiple people at these companies? Are they fragmenting all the information that needs to be sent back and forth? Why did that one get approved so quickly and these other ones haven't?
Sorry to cut you off. As far as I know, Sean, because I asked a bunch of stuff on the Scout on that post, and Sean was saying stuff like, it was like the names translations from Japanese to English because they wanted to use the English names for the attacks, and then they've even gone as far. Bandai Namco has asked for Japanese translation rules for UFS to see if it actually is appropriate for their Soul Calibur 6 license. So they're actually I don't know if they're just trying to put them through the ringer, because I don't know what like the relationship was between them and I believe it was Fantasy Flight that had the Soul Calibur sets. Maybe there's some bad blood between that. I don't know. I could just be speculating. I try not to do that. But there was at the
same time. It's just at the same time, like, if that becomes an issue immediately, then why not just immediately go back, revert, and be like, okay, we're gonna use the Japanese names, or we're gonna at least use the phonetic version of it, right?
Yeah.
Like the same thing that happened for like Yamato Man's cards, right?
Sure.
Like I just like what's the easiest way instead of having like. It sounds like Jasco's dead set on using these English names. That obviously became a problem, so now they have to go through these hoops. Why not avoid the hoops and just fall back onto one way?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess that information isn't made aware. And if this is a problem, and then they're willing enough to tell us that that's what the problem is, well, I guess they're not really taking people's feedback, or it's more focused on they don't want to budge on their idea and they want to just focus on what they want.
I mean, the other thing, too, is, I mean, sort of in that vein, like, at the end of the day, like, you are licensing something from someone else, and, you can sort of say, man, they're being so unreasonable about this, but it's their IP. Like, it's kind of, that's the life you live.
And that's kind of why you brought up the idea of, it's like, why not have the first set be a Red Horizon set? Because you don't have to.
Exactly.
You don't have to answer to anybody.
You don't have to worry about anything. It's
you just
yours.
Be like, cool.
You can do whatever you want.
You could have 187 characters and no other cards, and just put that out, and no one will buy it. But you can still put out that set. Yeah. So it's just.
Yeah, it's more just like a Red Horizon set will always barring some like massive disaster, like. It's not going to have any of the sort of delays that you can run into with another set in terms of like licensing, art approvals, like anything like that, because it's literally all just going to be like, Jason, is this fine? Yep. Put it out.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to get on the phone to Japan.
And like,
you don't have to like clear some hoops. Like it's yours.
I've also heard you say that Red Horizon should always be. You should always like. I think I'm in agreement. I don't know if you said it or if I've heard someone say it, but Red Horizon should be at the same level as the rest of your licenses in a way, like as in like power level or even like prominence in the tournament scene. It's your characters. You want your characters winning events because it's your IP. I get it that you may have to say publicly you want like Capcom or Mortal Kombat characters. You want those characters to do really well, but you kind of want your own stuff to do really well too. You don't want your stuff to be kind of like how it is now, where everyone's like, well, it's pre-Bebop, so no one's gonna play it. Because no one plays Red Horizon characters, but the cards in that set are some of them are pretty good. I mean,
the thing is too is like there's plenty of people like even newer players who like got in with like Bebop or Mortal Kombat who like look at the Red Horizon stuff and they're like, man, this stuff's like I kind of like the look, like I'm interested in like what's going on here. Sure. Like I just wish that I could play them.
Yeah.
Like with the most recent Red Horizon set in standard as well, like the look is still the same look as all these cards. Like that was the first set that they have the symbols on the side. Like like your cards still all look the same. You can still buy them and know that like, hey, these cards are still playable for a while. And then like at the same time, like when they first gave these release dates on like to carry for like 5 sets worth, like I had already assumed that one of these for this next coming year has to be a Red Horizon set. Because that way they're just doing what they did last year and adding the extra work that they don't have to worry about with these separate IPs. And so I totally agree on the fact that should have just been one of the first 2. And the reason I say the first 2 is because if you had it planned for the second one, you should be at least far enough in production for it that you could maybe flop their positions if something came up, kind of thing. Yep. And I don't think that's why if it's a choice where they want the Red Horizon set to be at the end of the year or the one around World so they can give away prizes because they already have all the cards. Like if that's the plan, that's a really cool plan, but it doesn't keep you problem proof when stuff like this happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I just think it's like you said. It's it feels like every time they kind of have one of these situations where it looks like they're making some headway and they're like about to turn the corner, something like this just comes up.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And then like, everybody who's got like negative things to say just kind of sits there and goes like, told you.
Yeah.
Told you.
To be honestly,
you see these players that like came. I mean, I know I do. Like I see the people that came in like around like basically Bebop, who were often just like, man, like all you old players are so like bitter and negative. Like just give them a chance. And I see some of those players now just like, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I don't see
me. That's exactly me, Rob. Like I am in that boat where I've been playing for a year now, and I've seen this new age, and now I see something like this, and you're like, well, now I don't know who to fuck to believe. And I don't know what to anticipate. And the last thing I'll say about it is they've been making all these drives and these plans to bring these new players in, and they've been doing that with these really cool new IPs. And I think resurfacing these older ones is the same way to do that. But at the same time, if a new player coming from like a separate card game, they want to see this consistency that they gave, and they gave this announcement. And when a newer player who is looking forward to a new set to buy into and it doesn't come, and on top of that they don't hear anything, it's just really scary to a new card game player that doesn't know what's going on and doesn't know what to expect. And so it makes them want to go back to their other card game or just maybe not try this one because there's inconsistencies. And so it's this huge push and pull on like how either things are being managed and the non-communication, but at the same time, like they want to go towards this sort of mindset, and then the actions don't show that.
Yeah, true.
And that's really the biggest thing too. Is like they want to move towards this new age with these newer players. They want to get more people playing the game, and it's really cool. But stuff like this makes it really hard. And then they start hearing these words from the veteran players and the older players, or people like me that I don't know what to tell you because it's different. It's different every month.
It's
just
from
really
week
hard
to week now. It's different, because at first like we were supposed to get all the DLC this month, but now that's not happening because they want to produce all the DLC at one time. Because it's going to be cost effective, I guess, to do that. But in my opinion is why even have your newest set in the DLC? Because the DLC should be using for supplemental old sets, like a Street Fighter, like bring back some new Bebop characters, some new Darkstalker characters,
maybe some new Robot Masters.
Some new Robot Man.
We haven't got
Come
yet.
on, dude. Let's get Rob Clown Man. Come on, we gotta get him Clown Man. And
I'm sure Justin Pardo would also like Clown Man.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever. But anywho. But yeah, so now all this stuff's all tied up in that, and now that's going to be pushed back. And now that could have been used as, hey guys, we can't get our set out on time, but we have all this new DLC. We're having 2 new DLCs come out this month. We're going to have these new promos out this month. They could have had stuff, like, if they didn't tie that in, I don't think people would have minded that Soul Calibur 6 is pushed back. Because we have stuff.
They would, but less. I mean, basically, anytime you're getting, like, new cards, like, it kind of makes, like, okay, like, at least we're getting this.
Well, shoot.
You know, there would be a positive to focus on more so than, like, the negative. And, I mean, honestly, for me, like, I feel like I've tried to, like, go out of my way to just not bag on this. Like,
no, I know, I get it.
Like, just because, like, to me, I was like, you know what? They have a little bit of a delay. Like,
delays happen.
It could be the same old thing, but like you know, looking at the schedule, and it's like, you know what? If this gets out, if this is just like 2 or 3 weeks, and it gets out like, like end of February, like early March, it really doesn't matter. Like, the time between this and like the May set might be a little crunched. But it's like. There's also like a July set, so like May and July, so like that's pretty close to.
It kind of just crunches everything together like really fast because we just had a set in November, and then we have a set in February, which is what, like 3 months roughly. And I'm more of the belief of I'll take 3 sets, one every 4 months. That's the way it works out. That's how math works. So I'd rather have 3 sets to opposed to 4 because it's a lot nicer on the wallet, and I think a lot of players would appreciate that. So maybe they'll just come out and say, hey, we got Soul Calibur once it's able to come out. They'll be like, well, we're gonna lop that 4th set off and put it on, get ahead for next year or whatever. Which is fine.
But the problem with that is like, when they said we're gonna do 4 sets, lots of people went, I don't want 4 sets, I want 3 sets.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to spend all that money.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're doing 4 sets. But it's like, okay, then put out 4 sets.
Yeah, I know.
Then just hit the dates. Like that's hitting the dates is more important than what the licenses are. It just is.
The separate side of it too, and I don't know how much of this like that you're into as well, Chris. But like the other part is like I work at a card store, and having these set dates, and if you follow these kind of things, it's really rough. And I'm not even saying that 4 sets a year is rough because I play like you look at other card games and they got a set every month, and so but part of the card shop is that you're budgeting for these sets coming out every year or every month. And if that's the case, when you look at a game like this one, or even like Magic, where they don't have set releases every month, but they have them layered out.
Oh yeah, Magic has their stuff planned out for like 2 years, right? Isn't that
exactly? Then when one set doesn't show up, like you planned and you budgeted for the set to be here, you had your money ready to go, and then when you get no information from your distributors because all they can tell you is we don't have any info because they haven't told us anything, like you're supposed you were banking on that set and that coming out for you to make money, to bring more people into the store, to fire more tournaments if they started dying off because some community wanted more product on the shelf. Like that stuff builds up, and that's exactly what I'm talking about for these newer players. They're like, yeah, I mean, I've been playing with Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers stuff because like kids want some shiny new stuff, man. And Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, if you're not playing one of those specific characters, you don't really want those cards. You're like, I'm tired of it. I don't want Bebop anymore. I don't want me to Mortal Kombat. I got all my cards. I want these new stuff. And so now there's no reason for me to play because you said this set was going to be here and now it's not. And so as someone who sells cards, it's really rough too because, when a new UFS set comes out, that money helps me afford other card games and helps me buy other things. And now if I have to turn on a dime within a month or 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever of, hey, you need to have this money to buy this set because this is the brand new date and it's happening right now. And then I have to be like, well, what about the set that comes out a month after that? Like, and so it's this miscommunication, and I think that's really the biggest gripe that I have with it is that there's just no information, and that's not on anybody's ball. Like the problem is that if the information is, well, we're waiting on information as well, then everybody just feels bad, and then nothing gets done.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so are we done with the negative? Because we can move on to the more positive part of the show. Today, Sean Kennedy got a hold of me. As I'm putting this episode out tonight, but everyone will see the MRPs came out today for the spoilers for the MRPs for Liu Kang, Quan Chi, Zoe, and Twinkle. So he sent me. They're going to be up on the screen in the corner, so we don't have to say what they exactly do. People can read it, but we can just give our general thoughts about each card. So, general thoughts overall of all 4, just at first. are you glad these guys are back? Should they have just stayed banned? Should they have just not come back, or what?
I'm excited for half of them, and the other half of them I think won't matter.
I think that too. I honestly think that too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it's kind of nice, like, to get these cards back out. I mean, I know for some of the MRPs for Platinum, the sort of idea was, well, what if this character is like so-and-so's favorite, and then now they can't play him because it's banned.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's cool. Like, I know, like, back for the King of Fighters, like, I would have liked to have been able to play as, like, as, like, a different Maxima, because, like, he looked really cool.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, like, there's nothing wrong with, like, having them out. I mean, as long as they're, like, widely available and easy to get, like, that's cool.
Sure. They are. They're going to be passed out at all PTCs, and all local groups who the stores that carry the game are going to be getting them. So if you buy your stuff at a local card shop or whatever, you can get them. And they should be free. They're just to be passed out for participation prices. No one should charge for these.
The perk is that if you have the older versions, which these are from the most, three of these characters from the most recent 2-3 sets,
yep.
And the other ones from a Red Horizon set that we were just talking about, you can play the older versions with the wrong text as long as you know the right one. Like, you can do that. Like, it's you can play old Scorch Reels even with new Scorch Reels existing. Like,
well, I think it's different because, like, technically speaking, they are different dots.
They're different versions,
so,
technically.
Like, I don't know if you could, like, enter a PTC with it, but, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, like, yeah, I mean, for most of the stuff, it's like, here's the character, I have, like, the real character on my phone, like, this is what it does.
Yeah. Locally, I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't care.
But, like, they're not different dots. It's still Liu Kang one dot.
No, they changed that. Sean gave me an updated file that they have 2 dots, and then Zoe has a 3rd dot. They are different. They are different versions. Yeah. So yeah. So you
honestly, like, I kind of like that because it means that possibly, like, the more broken ones could one day be, like, legal in, like, a Jasco Legacy.
Yeah.
Get character stacked with the busted ones.
I mean, maybe in that case you just don't have, like, the other ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you'd ban one, keep the other. Personally.
Yeah.
So.
Because, like, I know that was sort of one of my frustrations with, like, Scorch Wheel and, like, Shield Ram, Ever Hopeful, stuff like that, where they are literally just erratas, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, a lot of times, like, cards like that, it's like, just ban them.
Sure.
Just ban them and have a format where you can play them later on, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I mean, my only, I guess, like, complaint would be I wish they were, like, a little more redesigned.
Sure.
I guess on the one hand, it's cool, I guess, that you keep, like, pretty much the same abilities, so they're easier to kind of pick up, like, you already kind of know what it does, you know what the old one did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, a lot of them just sort of seem like they took the exact same abilities and kind of, like, either put
a restriction,
like, real, like, costs or restrictions on them where they didn't have them before, so... in some cases, like, they're still okay and, like, maybe just, like, a bit more balanced. And, like, in other cases, they're borderline, like, unplayable.
Yeah, so, like, I actually, like, I don't like that either. And I specifically, I think where I noticed this the most is actually on Twinkle Murdoch.
You want to get into Twinkle first, then? We'll get into, we just get right into Twinkle first, then, as you're talking about it, then. I'll pull her up on the screen,
So my biggest gripe with the new Twinkle Murdoch is the commit cost on giving the 2 momentum, which... is, and the way that they describe it for the MRP is that you have to make this judgment on commit your character and then give up giving the 1/1 per, like, and so, like, that makes sense. But at the same time, like, why didn't you just find it to where she could give your opponent 2 momentum in a really actual interactive way, for the same way that Jetta can only give you momentum when you either have none or he successfully blocks an attack. And instead they're like, now let's just make this committal cost, which means the rest of the character doesn't matter when you use this ability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, that it's still playable. I think she's one of the 2 playable ones that I was talking about earlier, because she can play Destruction immediately. And I think that card is incredibly powerful.
I mean, that's still first E, though, right?
Yeah, it's still... The
Correct.
Yeah, it's still first E.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I mean is you can play an attack, use Twinkle Murdoch's Enhance, give them 2 momentum, and then you can immediately drop a Distraction Destruction and be able to do that. Whereas The other characters and or other cards that allow you to give your opponent momentum, you don't get to do that with Distraction Destruction. She can slam a Distraction Destruction on turn 2 after she played an attack before it and use its ability. And so for that reason, I think she will see play. She also can use Virus and Change very well. Still, her cards still work with this character. The committing cost basically just means that you're going to use it on defense a lot.
Sure. Because there are only once per game now, so you may not even use it until late game when you're trying to get a kill or whatever. Or
correct. And then it also means, like, if you want to play the new Jetta reversals in her, obviously underwater, because she synergizes with that momentum mechanic, you can't give stats to it if you use that commit ability.
Sure.
But, I don't know if that's a big deal necessarily in her because she's a 7-hander.
She's a 6.
So
she's a 6.
She's a 6, yeah.
Whoa, I didn't notice.
Yeah, she's always been a 6. Wait, was she?
Yeah. 7. I thought she was 720, but never
she's
mind.
always
You're
been
right.
a 6. Yeah.
Sorry, okay, my bad.
You're all right. No worries. No worries.
I think the fact that she can use those cards very well, I think the fact that you can still do your Tech Sphere into Dragon Flare stuff is still, like, something that you can do in her that you can't necessarily do in Jetta because he doesn't have the evil symbol.
Yeah. Well, they could have just, with like the 2-dot version, they could have just got rid of that. Like, it doesn't really matter. Big whoop-de-doo. She can play Dragon Flare on an 8. Okay, have fun.
Honestly, yeah. I think you can't play safe was kind of ridiculous, like, in the first place. And, like, it still seems ridiculous here. I mean, I don't know. Like,
especially since you have to commit to user now. It's like, it's not like you're getting, I mean, the thing is, like, the best safe attacks are basically Dragon Flare, or, like, at least, unless there's some new ones, which I haven't really, like, looked. Maybe they're future-proofing her, maybe? I don't know. So, yeah. But basically, like, Dragon Flare and, like, Oil Slider to, like, unflip, like, Save the Sea Rats or something. Yeah.
Sure. But, it's just, like, she's already got, like, 3 different 2-line abilities, and then you just have, like, can't play safe attacks. It's just, it's much. It's a little much.
Yeah. And like I said, the only reason why I think she's going to be playable, and the other reason why, and I don't know if she's going to be, like, competitive, but because she has the let's debuild my opponent essentially using the mechanics of Jetta 2-dot and her own cards. I think because Foundation Destruction is strong, I think because Distraction Destruction is a card, I think because you can still play Revoke under 2 of her symbols and her once per game ability, like, I think that is enough for this character to still see play and still be part of a mechanic that people are going to have to still put cards in their deck to counterplay it. If you weren't playing Pursuing a Vendetta against the Lord Raptor and Jetta matchup, well, you better be playing it now because some people are going to try and play Twinkle Murdoch.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, stuff like that, there's still counterplay, and, like, they were already coming back up because of the Street Fighter vs. Darkstalkers characters. She got a buff from Street Fighter vs. Darkstalkers. True. So, like, I think she will see play still, but I think
she got a buff from MK. I mean, she's sort of, if you're going to play her on Evil, I mean, it's sort of the same as all those Evil Desperation decks that want to run, like, Samba and everything. I mean, you have so many more options to, like, not worry about the one check on Distraction now. So, like, that's pretty beneficial as well. So,
well, even if, like, you could just sandbag into Jetta if you wanted to off of water. Like, I guess if Jetta got, like, super popular or whatever, like, you could play her on top, and then if you go into Jetta on game 2. Whatever.
I don't think I would ever recommend to somebody, you know what you should do? Just sandbag.
Hey, man. I
did it. Yeah. It's not that bad. I think, but, like, the fact that, like, I keep bringing up Distraction Destruction, and I only think it's because with her in the format, and, like, Faye can do it, and because Jetta 2 can do it, the card becomes more relevant.
Yes.
But the way that you could kill people before with Twinkle Murdoch is just play a bunch of low difficulty attacks, play her stuff, shove a bunch of momentum into your opponent's stuff, which you can do with Jetta's cards, and play Virus and Chain and fuck people up, man.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, you can still do that because she still gives stats. You can still do that because she has a bunch of extra cards that do it now. And so, you can do that under any of those symbols, but I agree, like, underwater, if that's the kind of mechanic you want to focus on, she can do it very well.
Sure.
And I think that's good. That's good enough to probably see her be played at a PTC.
Sure. All right. Who are we doing next?
I mean, we could do Liu Kang.
Do the Kanger? All right.
Sure.
Kanger.
I don't know. Well, they could have just, instead of doing a commit ability for his E, they could have just left it at once per turn. I don't agree with the commit. Once per turn would have been fine.
I think the commit is fine, specifically for the fact that Stop is a good card against this character still.
Well, yeah, true. You know,
I think it's one of those things to where it's like, so when I see the new Liu Kang abilities, I think of, okay, he still synergizes very well with all of his cards. Yin and Yang is the response on play. His enhance is now a response to an ability. That makes sense to me. I think Yin and Yang is the stronger card because it's the action, whereas his ability should just be used on the combo ability. I think it's a huge nerf to the character, but it's still very strong. Yeah. It means his first attack is really bad, which means you never have to block it, ever.
That's so true.
And you don't feel bad about it, and you don't put a card in your card pool when he plays. But then you still have that synergy of like, well, his other ability says commit, and so if I do block the first attack with a stop, there's huge counterplay for this character now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it didn't really feel that way because before you weren't even able to block with the stop, even if you wanted to, because there were so many cards in your card pool on the first attack. Mm-hmm. And I think for that reason, it's a huge nerf, obviously, but it makes it to where now cards like that are meant to stop this character look like they work because he has a commit cost.
Sure.
I think I agree that the once per turn could be an easy fix for it as well. Yeah. But my problem is that, like, if it just said once per turn, then it meant you can do it on your turn. As long as you keep your character ready, you can do it on your opponent's turn. And I don't think that's what they were going for. I think what they're going for is you choose to do it offensively and then you don't have it, or you choose to do it defensively and then you can do it again offensively. Like, I think that's
True.
And so I think that choice is what they're looking for. Whereas if you did once per turn, you still have an 8-hander that's 26 life. Like, I don't think that's what they wanted. I think they wanted the 6-hander pseudo 7.
Yeah.
Which is what a lot of characters are. Like, there are a lot of 6 pseudo 7s.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this fits that bill a little bit better.
Well, I mean, he wasn't even like an 8.
No, he was
a however many you
want to be. Pick up every attack you want.
Yes.
Neo Fatica is still great in him. It's probably not going to be on like zeros anymore, which is fine. That's totally fair.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. Or negative difficulty, where if you get lucky enough, people go build into deadlock. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, stuff like that is good. Champion of Combat is still a card. He can still kill people. Like, he can still... I think he's going to turn into a control character, and I think that's the perk of the Death and the Water builds. I think Fire is a little weak, but he got access to Ken's cards, which says Enhance Flip, stack this Fire attack on top of my deck, and I get to pick it up immediately with my commit ability. Like, you get to guarantee something with that. And, like, I saw those cards, even though he got banned, and I was like, man, that's really cool, specifically for Fire Liu Kang. Yeah. But I think he's going to be a control character where the reversals actually matter.
I think I like that a lot better than him just being like a blitz aggro deck personally, because I don't know. I think of a Liu Kang as a controlled, like, just a skilled fighter more than just I'm just gonna throw a million punches at you. But
right. And he's got 2 symbols to do that kind of play style, and so I really like this new Liu Kang. I think he took a huge hit, but if you take a huge hit from S tier to B, you're playable. Like, absolutely.
I would actually think. I don't know. I would assume all these characters are more of like a B. I would think Quan's more of an A, but that's just my opinion. But whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I think Quan's the most playable character out of all of them.
Anyway.
I mean, so the other thing too, like, I guess sort of like the biggest thing for me, like, I'm curious about sort of cards that he can flood like twice with his R. And so, like, I know like Takeda has a couple. But, like, I mean, Whip Assault, like, that's combo attack, so it doesn't really matter. But, for instance, like, his Kunai and, like, Shirai Ryukan both have deadlock combos. So, like, and especially, like, Shirai is a reversal. So, like, theoretically, if your opponent, like, is in deadlock and you can reversal with a Shirai, you can play the combo and then the deadlock combo and actually get them for 2 cards off of his R.
Sure.
And, like, stuff like that means that, like, that ability was still thought out, and the twice per turn. And, it's still being a response to the ability being played, means that, like, yes, there's more counterplay because, like, if it gets revoked, like, it's a big deal. Even though I think the response window still exists, so, like, you can still do it.
Yeah, you still played it. So.
Yeah, you still played it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like you still get to do those kind of things. Whereas before it was all like, you can at least interact with this enhance now when something happened, but you still have to figure out a way to deal with the responses. And again, I think just because stop is now super playable against him makes it incredibly good.
Yeah.
Bang was already a big answer to him, so
yeah. The other card too, though, is Windmill Punch has 2 combo ways.
Yes.
Correct.
The adding the one to a pool, and then also the stacking something.
Yeah.
So, like, that's another card where, like, if that's your second attack, like, you can immediately get, like, 2 more cards in their pool.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's just nice. Like, just some of the cards, like, that he can play and that will, can basically, like, satisfy that right away. I mean, I guess also, like, Fatality is, like, pretty worthless for him now.
Yeah.
It's not nice because like
it is still momentum.
Yeah.
It is still momentum, which is still relevant for things like Windmill Punch that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things too to point out about these characters is that we basically took all of these what were considered S tier characters for their time. We brought them down, but their cards that they have, with the exception of Zoe, are still S tier cards. Yin and Yang is still nuts. Windmill Punch makes an entire symbol playable. So, like, because these cards still exist, like, Champion of Combat is still nuts. So, like, these cards still have counterplay. I think all it takes is that, well, those cards are still strong. We just lost the character that plays them the best. Now we have a character that can play them again. And not only that, we have more cards for counterplay against that character.
Yeah.
Like, now we have Unite in the format. And so these aggressive decks that would just get blown out by Liu Kang are still playable because Unite can counter just this one character.
Sure.
And like that didn't exist before, and because we have these pseudo like silver bullets as well as the toned downness of these characters, I think they're going to be super healthy. It means that they won't be dominating the format, which they shouldn't be.
Sure. All right.
His flood was always only twice, right? But it was like when you played a combo.
It was when you played a combo attack. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you're able to block his first attack if you want. Which I probably never would, unless it's only gonna be like 3 damage anyways. If you're playing,
I mean, it depends. I mean, honestly, like, there's nothing wrong with like blocking something with like Breaker 2, Breaker 3,
or stopping him. Yeah,
you can play another attack.
Oh, sure.
But, like, you're gonna have to tap stuff to pass it.
Oh yeah,
especially early.
Yeah,
like,
and then if you can stop him on his first attack, if you play stop, then his turn's over.
Well,
so.
And see, that's the part too, is like that matters more now, especially because you don't have all these cards in your card pool from the first attack. So you putting a breaker means it doesn't just get sucked up by a Neophatica right away.
Yeah.
It means the Fatica is probably still on at least a 5 or a 6, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or a Fatality.
Very true. So who are we doing next? Want to do Zoe or Quan?
Oh, we can do Quan.
Quan? Okay. So he's my favorite out of the 4. I think he is an A tier character. Like he got hit a bit, but he's still very playable. Like he's just not face tanking stuff.
Hopelessly broken.
Yeah, he was broken as shit. Yeah. He was god tier. As to quote Miles Tyler, he was god tier. So
he was Elder God tier.
Yeah. Oh God, he killed Elder God, sir. That's for sure. His character removals twice per turn. The rest of the ability hasn't changed. And then his R is once per enhanced step. You get +1 or -1 after your opponent plays an enhanced ability. So,
which essentially means that he's like
after your opponent plays one.
After your opponent plays an enhanced ability. But he's like Barrett said, he's basically Spike 1 now with a cool character skill ability.
Less vitality and a way cooler effect.
Yeah.
So
he's still going to see
I think for that reason, I think this character has a definite place right now, especially, and this will become, in my opinion, the best control character in the format.
Maybe? I don't know.
It all depends. I would agree with you. I think I don't know. Spike 1's still probably really
I
good.
agree for the fact, but I don't believe 4 vitality and just being able to play Fallen Angels is what makes that deck nuts. I think the fact that this guy has 3 incredibly powerful symbols, and the fact that he can copy offensive characters and defensive characters, which I believe is going to be the new way to build him, because he can only do it twice per turn.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see I have Raidens and Katanas in my deck because they have for defense, and I still have the Napalm Mans, I still have the Deborahs, I still have all these other things. for the offensive capabilities. I can still play Spike 2s and put some M3Cs because I'm a control deck now. I'm not going to slam M3Cs on you on turn 2 anymore. I'm going to wait until you use your resources or Foundation Destruction because I still have the death symbol. Like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to play this control, grindy game. I'm still a 7-hander. I can block things like a madman, and I have the life symbol. I'm going to do all these things to manipulate and use these characters that synergize with this effect. And I think we can just control the game under any of these 3 symbols. We can pick a different way to do it. That's how I see this character working now. We're still going to be able to play Skull. Skulls are still going to be an in-game.
Honestly, I think Skull gets better. Like, I think he's more interested in it than, like, he may have been before.
Man, listening to Barrett talk, I was like, man, I know there was a reason we brought him onto the show permanently. Man, that guy's a genius.
I don't think I'm a genius, and I may be proven completely wrong. And like, I would love to play the hell out of this character over Donovan 2, and it's because I think Donovan 2 under Death is an incredibly good control deck, and I love the hell out of it.
Sure.
But I think this character brings so much more, and deck building for this character becomes so much more fun because you can only use these characters twice on your turn, which means you loading your deck with a ton of Napalm Mans sometimes don't matter. Or you loading your deck with 4 Devoras might not matter anymore. And instead, those are actually dead cards now because we don't get to use as many at once.
I feel like I could see Devora still being basically, I think you might still run like 1 or 2. I don't think you necessarily just run like all of them, you know?
Yeah. I just don't think the decks become 4 Spike 2s, 4 Napalms, 4 Devoras.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a deck anymore.
Yeah.
And like, I got 1 Katana and I got like 1 Raiden for the really cool, mess up my opponent's stuff. Like, now I think it's more of an even split, or these decks bigger, and there's more disruption because we have really good disruptive symbols.
Sure.
I think that's what this character becomes, and I think he's going to be the best at doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think like for like basically Devora now is just kind of like including Not Over Yet. You know, that like maybe that like limits what you can do with his other stuff. Like, it's still good. I mean, gaining all that life is awesome. Especially if you're doing like kind of grindy, and it helps with blocks too. I mean, I don't think she comes out, but yeah, I mean, I could definitely see like you're not going to just go through 4 Devora and just play like every attack that you can get.
Yeah,
so
true.
Yeah, and although I'm very glad that they changed his responsibility to be once per enhanced step, I actually didn't think it was going to be a big deal if they didn't really change that, and they actually just focused on the capping abilities stuff.
Sure.
Just because things like Dark Chirito exist now, and there are real counterplays to this character, and so I was kind of looking forward to see which kind of route they chose. I'm glad that he just looks like Spike 1 with less vitality because his effect is way more impactful.
Sure.
And I think because of that, he can be more offensive still. He can still be offensive, or he can be more defensive.
I mean, honestly, I think that like it could have even been like maybe if it was like once per enhanced step, maybe it could have even been like +2, -2. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's too much, but like honestly, I don't think that it was going to stay untouched purely based on like the PTC in Florida.
Yeah.
Like I think like wholly on the back of Jeremy Ray, like basically he
did over 50 damage to him in one game.
But he like single barreled into his like card pool and negated a revoke. So it left him like completely unable to play any blocks, and just between like his character ability and like some of his like DR foundations and stuff, he was able to like take like 5 damage or something like that against Jackie.
Yeah, and that's why I think Skull will be way more relevant exactly too, because like it means you don't get the negate as much on the responsing, but when it comes back to your turn, 1 Skull can bring you back to where you need to be.
Yeah. Sure.
So, or at the same time, like because you're not DRing as much and you can kind of play around with it, maybe Desperation becomes an actual really good thing you can do in this character. Because like people always forget, like you can play Katana in this deck and it'd be super nutty, and then Katana also has a Desperation enhance, and so
yeah.
Or you can pick Scorpions and use it for his abilities, and then at the same time go to Desperation and have a Desperation enhance. So
true.
Like I think that becomes more doable, and then because you have cards like Skull, this guy can still gain the vitality, still survive, play a control game essentially.
Sure. Yeah, he's my favorite out of the 4, though. Definitely my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think by far. All right, so Zoe, 3-dot now, kids. 3-dot. Ooh. She's catching up to Garrett Brett there. Yeah. So, Rob, this was your baby. So we can start we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. She's fairly similar. I mean, I was sort of the same. Like, still has the same E, once per turn, range plus 2 speed. F commit, add an attack to the staging area face down, and pick up a ranged. But after you do that, you can't play attacks from your hand for the rest of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think.
Blows. I think this character blows. I just want to be super blunt because, like, I've had a lot to say about the other ones, but I think this one's real bad.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
I mean,
it's still sort of this, like, it's kind of the same as, like, some of the other, like, honestly, really the older one of the, like, I'll pick up my attacks that hit and I'll throw them again next turn. Because the old one was, like, you couldn't play stuff from your hand after you used her form.
Zoe One Dot?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of... We'll see if anyone really dives into her. I think it'll, like, take some work. I was sort of thinking even just something like, we've seen Graven and, like, Faye. I mean, for her, using, like, a Graven, you could put, like, an M3C in and then use her form twice to pick up, like, 2 attacks. So I think it's kind of just one of those things where, it makes her, like, a lot more fair than she was before.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's why I think she's bad.
Because she's fair.
Because she's fair.
Sure.
Yeah. No, what you're talking about is actually pretty cool. I think something I didn't consider is that, like, under air, she does get to benefit from, like, 2 things leaving her card pool at once, which means you can use things like Ace Maneuvers a little pretty good effectively in her. And the M3C thing that you just talked about, like, I think that has some real legs. I think what's going to kind of really hinder her is that they turned this incredibly aggressive 6-hander that can a pseudo 7, right? Because she can pick one back up, into a much less aggressive character because she's not a pseudo 7 because you get that attack back, but you don't get to play it.
Play it. Yeah,
exactly. And for that reason, she just becomes an inherently less aggressive 6-hander when you can just play. I'll bring it up. You can just play Spike 2, and that restriction doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You can play Spike 2. You can play, like, Chun-Li. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of other things.
And, like, you can't. But, like to me, I look at this character and I'm like, man, if I really wanted to pick up attacks again, why am I not just playing Lord Raptor 2 Dot and all of his flash support? Like, I get it, I have to play flash attacks, but, like, he has foundations that are so nuts that can let you just keep picking up attacks.
Mm-hmm.
This ability, to me, because of that, and because those cards exist, isn't strong enough. The fact that you have to commit her means that and there has to be another attack in your card pool. You get stopped on the first one, and this character blows. And stop was a card.
That was one of the main things against her, was to stop her on her first attack. That was usually the plan. Sometimes it didn't work. It's
just one of those things where, like, when your second ability, essentially, because we haven't even brought it up, it doesn't do anything.
No,
2 speeds per turn, it doesn't do anything. So she already has, like, an effect and a half. And then the effect that she's supposed to be focused around, I don't even, like, feel the synergy with her cards.
I mean, she never had that much.
No, she never did anyways.
Although that's not true, though. I mean, like, part of the idea, I guess, even behind like her one her ultra or whatever was like, if they block this, like, destroy some face downs and your next ranged attack is unblockable. So the whole idea was like, they blocked it. Okay, form, pick up whichever ranged attack I want to be unblockable, and then play that.
Sure.
So, like, she can't even do that now. What if it was, like, form, like, you can only play one more attack this turn? Like, even something like that would have been a lot better.
Sure.
So that it would be less, like, reset your card pool and keep going, and more like, okay, clear out, like, basically -2 progressive, and, like, you get one more shot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, honestly, like, I feel like it's just kind of the same of, like, the Red Horizon stuff of just, like, nobody cares about this. Whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
To me, I just want to use the words, like, too little, too late. Like, there was this part of me that like as soon as Spike 2 hit the format, there's a point where like I even told people, I was like, listen, I don't even know what Zoe 2 does, but you can unban her right now and she still won't be played. And like I genuinely felt that. And now,
she would have been played.
I think she would have.
She would have been played.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying though.
Still think Tim Keefe would have wiped the floor and won with Spike 2 at Worlds because Spike 2 is, in my opinion, the better character. But I think even just changing this one effect, I think even if you kept the aggressiveness in her, I don't think she would have made the cut just because other decks were so incredibly powerful at that point. I'm trying to prove myself wrong as I am looking at every new ranged attack under all three of her symbols.
Yeah. No, I mean here's the thing. The thing is like if like the with M3C right now, there are like literally like you can do an infinite with her, with like either any ranged attack in Graven or like Sonic Boom and a like a Foundation Sack outlet. So like they couldn't bring her back as just F commit, like add one and like build one because like yeah, I mean it was just gonna be a mess.
Sure.
And I think you still have some good stuff in her too, because it's like so like one of the cool ones I'm finding out, so like Dark Kirito has range and they're good, and so like in good, and if you're doing this Graven Castle thing that you're talking about, Dark Kirito becomes one of those cards that you can use. And that one's really important for her because she probably can't handle DR very well either. Sand Grenade seems really cheeky and kind of cool under air.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up hand cannons every single like.
Yeah, that's the first thing the church sent me. Church said that they're gonna play hand cannon every turn.
Yeah, so like,
I mean, honestly, how about like swimming birds? Like that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that hand cannon's a target means, no, I guess not. Never mind. I was like, well, because hand cannon's a target, we can play insect puppeteer, but she didn't show me something like that, so never mind. It's a lame one. Fan throw, fan NATO, that's actually kind of good. Like you being able to pick up a smite every turn is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be like, hey, guess what? You better have that +3 for next turn.
Yeah.
Like these are cool, but like force ball technically.
No, nothing game breaking is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's nothing that I'm looking at and being like, oh my gosh, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can pick up a swimming bird every turn. Like that might be the deck. Like to be honest.
Yeah. But even that, I mean, I think maybe that is it. Maybe it's like if you could have played like one more, but the ending your turn definitely like drastically changes the way that she like worked.
Very true. Very true.
And that's the thing is like she doesn't even work that well with like some of the spike stuff because the whole thing is like, oh, how many cards you've cleared, and it's like, oh, well, you can't play any more attacks. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So like, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing I think this character brings now is that she has a very defined pace. It's attack, maybe another one, move 2 cards away, one of those back in your hand, and now you get to build because you clear all those cards. That's her persona now, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Spike 2 does the same thing. Like, just wants to be more aggressive because he can keep playing stuff.
Yep.
And so, like, because she has this defined pace, she's going to be determined to be like a slower deck. Because she's only now as good as ranged attacks are.
Right. But also being a slower deck as like a 626 with no defense, like not a good place to be.
Not a good place to be today. Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, and I will say that's one thing. I'm glad that we got all these 626s back because we got 3 of them.
3 of them have, and I think they all have water too, right? No, they all have water as well. It's really weird.
Yep.
It's very weird. You know, it's like they all share one symbol and they're all the same stats. So. So I think
whichever one of them can play the windmill punch, multiple copies thing will be great.
Rob, anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Barrett, you good? Anything else?
Yeah, fine.
All right. So consensus is some of them are good, some of them are pretty bad. So whatever. Have fun playing with your locals, kids. I guess that they're going to be passing them out at the Chicago PTC this weekend. So
what, should these be legal basically
March
after
1st.
The PTC?
March
or
1st.
Starting next month or what?
Yep. He said March 1st. The official, they think they just posted something officially a little bit ago. March 1st. So they will be legal for the Atlanta PTC. So if people want to play any of the characters there, they can play them there. But, you know, I don't know if they're foil or not. I highly doubt it. So I'm pretty sure they're just going to be passed out like, you know, just normally at PTCs. I know that if your store carries it, they do have the option to contact Jasco. If they carry price support, they're going to get it. So they should just be distributed free as can be to players because they are supposed to have these in their hands. So, but anyway.
The one in Atlanta, that's actually really fitting because Liu Kang's final resting place was Nationals in Atlanta, and now he's
resurrected. It's Zombie Kang. It's Zombie Kang.
Once you want him back, that's it.
There you go. All right, everyone. So I want to say thanks for watching the show. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on the cards. What you guys think? Maybe we're just full of shit. Maybe you guys have better opinions. I have no idea. I'm just here to facilitate the information. So thanks to Jasco for giving us the cool quick hits. Because I asked Sean about new stuff. He's like, here. These are coming out. You can talk about them. I was like, sweet, yay, new stuff, I guess, kind of new stuff. And thanks to our Patreon subscribers. So, not sure for how soon after the Chicago PTC we're going to get the Guile treatment out. People are traveling on Monday, so we'll see who wins. Maybe me. And then we're doing it on Monday. If not, we'll probably have to wait till Tuesday, so maybe be delayed a couple days. Jesus Christ. Wow. It's not Soul Calibur 6 here. So we'll try to get that out to you guys as soon as possible. I think there's something about someone commentating over the live stream. I heard some people talking about it, so hopefully you guys can catch that this weekend. So that's it. That's all I got. So stay safe, love each other, have fun. Travel safe, you guys, this weekend. We'll talk to you later. Bye.